session for today?
Sure. Okay, so if you are ready, then time and place is yours.
Thank you very much, Katya, for a really proper introduction for me, because I don't have to talk about myself again, right? Because you all know about me. But maybe I have to emphasize some parts. I was a scholarship hunter as well before I actually admitted as a awardee for Indonesian Government Scholarship LPDP to Canada. That was in the University of Toronto back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. And then I took adult education and community development. Right. So for our class today, it's gonna be a coaching session. So I don't want it to be like me talking all the time to you. So if you have some certain questions during the presentation, just feel free to ask me questions and drop your questions on the chat. And then Kaate will try to collect all of your questions, and then we'll have the Q&A along the way I do my presentation. And also at the end of our presentation, I would like to invite two different people to be one of them gonna be the examiner and one of them gonna be the student taking the IELTS test. So we're going to do a mock test at this very moment, and I'm also going to give feedback for the performance, right? So these are the items that we're going to talk about today. The first one is about the assessment criteria and some common mistakes made by the students, sample questions, and breaking down the speaking practice, because I'm going to invite two of you to do the speaking practice. I mean, one for becoming the student, and the other one is going to be the examiner, right? All right, so for the assessment criteria, I'm pretty sure that you can download this speaking band descriptors actually everywhere. You can just Google it and you'll find it. But the hard thing is to understand what is actually being assessed by the examiner. What are the aspects that that are necessary for you to emphasize or to increase or to elaborate more. So it's actually not just reading the band descriptors, but it's how to understand it as well. So I'm trying to break down this into pieces so that it's going to be easier for you to understand. So basically, in speaking tasks, we are going to have three different parts: part one, part two, and part three. Part one will be talking about our day-to-day activities. So it's not going to be a heavy topic, but it's just gonna be like your hobby, your work field, your hometown, your daily activities. So it's gonna be talking about what you are doing frequently in your daily life. And in the second part, you are going to talk about a long term actually. So that one, you're going to be given a topic and you'll be asked to talk about that certain topic for about 2 minutes. But then before you start talking with that topic, you are gonna be given 1 minute time for you to draft your answer. So in that topic, you will have a paper actually, and then in that paper there are gonna be like around 5 questions that you have to answer. But then you will be given a time to draft your answer, and that 1 minute time for you to draft is not drafting the whole sentences or the whole paragraph, but it's just for you to note down some vocabularies that you don't want to miss during your speaking test in part two. And in the last part, it's going to be talking about an academic discussion actually with the examiner. So the topic is more of like a philosophical topic, or is more heavier topic than the part one and part two. Usually it's talking about the environment, talking about your opinion towards something, toward the, and not really political view, but things that are happening generally in our world. So yeah, those are the three parts of the speaking test. But then through all of the speaking tasks that you have for part one, part two, and part three, you will be assessed based on these criteria: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, pronunciation, and grammatical range and accuracy. We're going to talk deeper about this, right? So the first one is about the fluency and coherence. This criterion examines how fluently you can speak at length, your ability to talk without any pause or hesitation, and without any self-correction. It also assesses the efficient use of cohesive devices like pronouns, connectors, conjunctions, and more. You must speak in an accent and language that is easily understood by the examiner. Rare repetition or self-correction. Hesitation is content related, not to find words or grammar. So it's important part actually to highlight. So when you hesitate to talk about a certain topic, the examiner can easily assess you whether you hesitate because you are looking for a word to describe it, or because you're looking for ideas, what kind of ideas that you want to use to answer a certain question. So the examiner will understand it clearly. Oh, guys, before I continue, if you want me to repeat certain information that you think you don't want to miss and you want me to speak in Bahasa, feel free to ask me that. Okay. And before I continue, how many people are actually coming from outside Indonesia? If you want to raise your hand, that's gonna be easier for me. Otherwise, I will just sometimes mix between Bahasa Indonesia and English, because I don't want people to be confused about my explanation too. No, right? If you're coming from, if you're not from Indonesia, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to mix my language, okay? So the second criterion is gonna be about lexical resource. Oh wait, this one first. I need to explain about this. All right, so your fluency. For example, when you speak like it's gonna be affect your fluency as well, because there's a minor will see that you are being very in a big hesitation actually whenever you're going to shout out your ideas. So that's why that if you can eliminate that, it's gonna be wonderful. And I know there are some students complain. They came to me and then they asked me about how to actually not use like all the time. Sometimes the students say like all the time during their speaking test, and also like so they asked me questions about how not being like this. So actually, whenever you are thinking to say, you know whenever you're thinking to say like so you have to stop it right away and just don't speak. It's always better to pause a moment and don't speak, don't talk about anything, and then to continue again and gather your ideas afterwards. So it's under your control actually. So when the student asks me that question, I will ask them to be mindful when you are doing your speaking tests. Because when you're losing your control, you will be saying, like all the time. So that's why I always ask the students to avoid, to do not use that. And the second one is about the lexical resource. In this criterion, the examiner determines whether you use a wide range of vocabulary or not. Try to convey the meaning in different words and use less common vocabulary. The usage of collocations and paraphrasing at proper place are also taken into consideration. You must avoid errors while speaking. He uses vocabulary with full flexibility and precision in all topics. Use idiomatic language naturally and accurately, and you must avoid using wrong words and informal language. So it's pretty important actually to play with your vocabulary, because the examiner will think that you are a band 8 user, or you are a band 8.5 user, a band 7 user, based on the vocabulary as well. They can easily analyze that. So if you're using a sophisticated word that not all people know about it, then it's gonna be really good. But then it has to be very flexible. You can use it naturally. If you don't use it naturally, then examiner will know that, and it's gonna be a boomerang for you as well. They will note in their notes that you don't speak in a natural way of speaking, just like a native speaker speaks. Right, so it's pretty important. And also the language, when you are using the language in your day-to-day conversation with your friends, when you're using the language when you're talking in a coffee shop, for example, it's going to be different with the academic context. So this context, this discussion, this speaking test is going to be in a setting that is talking about academic matters. So whatever things that whatever ideas that you're going to say in your speaking test, it's supposed to be related to academic vocabulary. And how to differentiate between the academic vocabulary and day-to-day vocabulary. As long as you hear that and it sounds like a slang language, is that you often hear it in your day-to-day activities. So it's better for you to do not use it repetitively. Try to use the language that you watch from TED Talk, for example. Try to use the language that you watch in lectures in Harvard University or in other universities, like Ivy League universities, for example. So in that lectures, the language that is being used is actually for academic terms. So try to surround yourself with those academic um, conversations so that you know that it is going to be academic and not like our like day-to-day conversation. Sometimes day-to-day conversations is coming from the interview, in interviewing celebrity, for example. They sometimes use day-to-day conversation or day-to-day language. So yeah, try to use the academic ones. Right, that's about the lexical resource. And the next one is about the grammatical range and accuracy. Here, your formation of sentences, sentence structures, and proper application of grammar is determined. The structures must be set to accurately that its use sounds natural and appropriate while you talk. To score this criterion, things taken into consideration include sentence structures, proper use of tenses, use of simple as well as complex statements, with clear idea and control over grammar. Sometimes my students will be saying that the grammatical range and accuracy is all about tenses, about the simple present tense, simple past tense, simple future tense, as present perfect, present continuous, or past continuous, past perfect. Is not always the case, guys. If you know how to use a certain tenses, if you know how to use certain tenses in an accurate manner, that's gonna be your plus point. But then it's not about tenses all the time. Sometimes you're also being assessed about your sentence structure. If you can use the inverted subject and verb, if you can use conditionals like zero condition, second condition, third condition, even mixed condition, and it's gonna be good for you as well. And it's going to be really good for you as well to actually use in your speaking test. And if you want to use the how you call that, like complex statements with the conjunction inside it, it's going to be wonderful too. If you want to use connector, if you want to maneuver in your speaking using different grammar, that's going to be perfect as well. So it's not always about tenses, but it's all going to be associated about your sentence structures. Right, so the next one is about the pronunciation. A lot of people are asking question about whether my accent is going to be influencing my score. It's not necessarily the case. So sometimes if your accent can influence the meaning of certain word, then it's going to be dangerous for your score. But if your accent is fine and the examiner don't find it difficult to understand the meaning of your speech, then it's gonna be okay. But then if it comes to bothering the examiner that until they cannot really understand about what you're saying, then it's gonna be affecting your score. So for example, here Sundanese, not really Sundanese, like okay, let's talk about the Sundanese case. When you say this, for example, sometimes they get confused about the use of P and F in the speaking. So when they want to say part and it becomes fart, they want to say fart and it becomes part, then it's going to be a problem. So be mindful about this. Actually, you need to, if you're not mindful enough about using F and P, then it's going to be dangerous for your score. So again, your accent doesn't really matter as long as the examiner can easily understand your accent. I mean, the meaning of your speech. If you don't, then it's going to be affecting your score. So apakah harus American accent or British accent? It doesn't have to be like that. Even if you want to use Indonesian accent like this, it is totally okay as long as the examiner can understand you perfectly. If they do not understand you perfectly, and it is going to be affecting your score. So it's something like that. So that's okay, right? Right. So guys, if you have questions, drop it. So don't wait until I finish my presentation. Do we have questions so far, Kate?
Not yet. So
All right.
maybe. Oh yeah, someone raised
Raise your hand.
hand. Yeah,
Alvin, what happens?
right.
Can I
Hello.
ask? Hi,
Yeah.
Dagi. Can I ask?
Mhm.
Yeah, actually, you already said about some point that make a higher band for the IELTS, right? And I really love how your you and Kak Arta, how your the way you were speaking gitu. So and I wonder I can be like you and Kak Arta. And also what I want to ask about I want to ask about fluency. How can we increase the fluency in terms of English skill? Because I also hear from the YouTubes or any kind of media, if we want to upgrade our fluency, we can use a simple word for make the fluency good fluency. And then but I think as you mentioned before, in IELTS you we have to using many like collocations, and it will I think it will not easy to applicate it when we get tasks. So how can we deal with that? Thank you, Kadoki.
Wow, wonderful question. And it's really practical. All right, guys. So the first one, when I say this to the student, when they're not really fluent when they speak, one thing that is going to be the key is your confidence. Oopsie, your confidence. That is going to be the key of your fluency. If you're confident enough to speak in front of other people, then it's going to be good for you, and it's going to be easier for us actually to train you to speak better. But then once you got that confidence and then you speak fluently at length, but then we need to we need to focus on your grammar as well. We try to how you call that, to focus on your grammar, and we try to give feedback as many as possible for your grammar errors. And after that, we are going to talk about the coherence as well. And if your coherence is already wonderful, your confidence is great, and also your grammar is perfect, and then we also need to focus on your pronunciation. So uh, I know it isn't gonna be easy for to become like like us, for example, like Ate or like me, because it took a lot of practices actually before I'm like this. Because if you want to know, actually, I come from a mathematics background. As people already know that your master is going to be depending on whether you are very mathematics or you're very English when you are in high school, right? I was really mathematic, and I think learning English is impossible until I prove it myself. Like, it's not impossible. I can still learn English. So now I'm good at math, and I can consider myself as good at English as well. So it's yeah, it's depending on how willing you are to actually train yourself to be able to speak better, right? And in terms of IELTS, you always need feedback. If not, then you can't improve, right?
Thank you,
Does
Kadoki.
that answer your question?
Yeah, because now I'm still struggling about the fluency, and then actually I already have the idea, but it's hard to,
I know,
yeah.
I know. You need practice. You need to
Yeah.
practice a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Kadoki.
Very welcome. Kak Jovan,
Yeah.
you want to ask question? Feel free.
Hi, Kadoki. Thank you for the chance for me. One question about the idiomatic that you previously mentioned.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, is about the coherency section, coherency part. Um, and earlier you said that if the examiner notice that something unnatural idiomatics uh, mentioned by the student,
Yes.
how what in what circumstances that that the examiner will know that, oh, this is not natural, this is kind of makeup, and it's not really accurate idiom on what the student's trying to tell. So in what kind of circumstances in practical that the examiner really know that it is not natural? Thank you.
Right. Thank you for the question. It's really specific, talking about the idiomatic language actually. So if you have your podcast and you try to search about, I can't remember about the name, speaking something. So a native speaker will always know which one is natural and which one is not natural. So if I have to comment on that part, it's gonna be hard for me. But then one thing, if you want to use my cup of tea, have you ever heard about my cup of tea?
Yes,
My cup of
not my
tea.
cup of tea.
Exactly. So,
It's like not my way of doing.
exactly. It's not something that I love doing.
Yeah.
For example, the examiner is talking about photography, and you can answer that. Well, actually, photography is not my cup of tea. I would rather go to the beach and just enjoy the moment rather than taking pictures and also recording videos with my friends, because it's gonna be not really good for me mingling with my friends. But then I have to focus on my gadgets. Misalnya kayak gitu. So you can use it naturally. If you're not using it naturally, I don't know how to give the example of that. They will
Mm,
sense it. They will sense it. Uh, you know that when you are talking about ideas, for example, what do you think the benefit of living in a city compared to living in a village? And you can also say everything is double-edged sword. It's always having its benefit and its drawbacks. If you're not using it flexibly, then the examiner will know. But I don't know how to give the example when you are not using it naturally. But they will have a sense of it. Sometimes it
mm,
doesn't make sense as well. If you're trying to use idiomatic language, but then it doesn't make sense, the examiner will know that, right? So
okay.
I can't really say how they sense it, but you can also sense it, right? If you're speaking like a robot, for example, you can watch some a video tutorial on YouTube, and they got band 5, they got band 6, they got band 6.5, and they speak like a robot. And that's what you call as unnatural.
Mm, I
And
see.
actually, once you're done your speaking test, the examiner will know your score right away. So that's the thing. Sometimes it's more subjective, but then yeah, that's the way it is.
Okay, understood. Yeah, because I need to improve my speaking test, speaking skill, especially in idiom, because I need a score at least 6.5 actually.
Idiom is actually for band 7, 8, and 9. If you can use
Yeah.
it naturally. If not, then it's gonna be again boomerang for you. So be
All right.
careful.
All right. I think it's clear enough. Thank
Yeah,
you, Kadoki.
very welcome. Any other questions?
Oh,
Cheers.
yeah, thank you. So we have someone raises her hand, but also several questions on the chat box. I think I will go for the chat box first before we
Yes.
continue to the someone. And question from Kaudi: what should I do to train my speaking skill? I often read and speak aloud and a lot of in English, but I think my English is not becoming good even better like British American. Is there an effective way? So yeah, maybe like Kaudi tries to have that British or American accent.
All
How
right.
to improve
So
that?
British or American accents. You know, I used to speak in a high pitch actually because I was holding my tongue. I was holding my tense as well on my throat. So then when I speak, it was like in a high pitch. Uh, you know, like melengking, very melengking because I hold everything because we need that. We need to focus on our tongue. The tension when we speak without accent using bahasa Indonesia accent like this, it's very easy. We don't have to think. We don't have to put our tension a little bit up. We just speak naturally, very natural. But then the result isn't that good, right? But when you have to speak using your accent, you have to focus on your tongue and your throat as well. It's not gonna be easy unless you use it all the time. Jadi kalau misalnya I speak in bahasa Indonesia, I will use this tension. If I speak in English, I will use this tension. So the ability to move actually between bahasa Indonesia and English, it needs practice a lot. So practice. Kalau misalnya you ask me question, what kind of practices that you did actually? I usually speak. I usually try to be chatty when I was on my motorbike, and when I was alone. Yeah, I will try to be very chatty. When I'm angry, I'll be using English because when it comes from your heart, it's gonna be easier for you to actually express everything, right? So that's the tips if you want to be practicing a lot at home.
Yeah, on a
Next
motorbike.
question.
On a motorbike, or maybe you can try in front of the mirror. Can you speak like to yourself?
Exactly.
When you, let's say you have a broken hearted, then you can curhat there in front of the mirror. It is very effective as well anyway.
True.
All right, so next question before we continue to the next PowerPoint, a question from Kak Fika Ayu. So what if the examiner asking something that we never expect before? For example, did you ever look at the sky? How do you prepare the answer for unexpectable questions? Yeah.
Right. We don't have time to prepare actually. So if you never look at the sky, so you only have two options. First, you lie that you ever did that. Second, you just being honest that you never actually enjoy watching the sky because in my perspective, it is kind of lonely to do that because I'm very outgoing person and usually I talk to my friends. If I don't have friends, I watch movies. I enjoy myself even when there's no one around. But then by looking up to the sky, it shows that I am being very lonely and I am not. So that's an example on how to answer if you really don't do that kind of thing, right? So you don't have to force yourself to be able to answer all the questions if you have never done it. So say it, or you can lie about it. I love watching the sky, especially when there is a sorry, you can just lie.
Right. So another tip, make up story, guys.
Exactly.
All right. So yeah, the session is becoming very intense. We have more questions, and also two people raised their hands. But I think Joki has lots of points to discuss, and yeah, maybe you can continue. And after that, we are going to have another Q&A. So maybe you can continue first before we continue.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kate. So common mistakes usually made by the students need to know it is not a test of your knowledge or your intelligence. It's the way you answer a certain question. Only about that. The way you maneuver with your language so that you don't sound boring, okay? And you're not expected to be an expert of the subjects they ask you about. When they ask you about the climate change, you don't have to take the climate change major so that you're going to be perfectly answering that question. No, not like that. It's not necessarily the case. So what you can do is either, like I said before, if you have ever thought about it, if you have ever read about it somewhere, you can just say your ideas. But if you haven't So you just lie, or you say that you haven't heard, haven't read. You won't be assessed on the content of what you say. It's just about the language again, right? The examiner doesn't care what you do or do not know. The next part, try to avoid give a very short answer, because sometimes when you're being asked, do you like watching movies? Yes, I do. It's not like that. So you have to give the reasons why. Okay. Don't give very long answers. Also, like, do you like watching movies? Yes, I love watching movies, especially when it is all about adventure. I have watched this certain series. It was from the US, and the actors and actresses are really good. They're very good looking. And we talk about synopsis. At first, the story comes from this, and it ends to, it's gonna be too long. Not like that. Don't memorize answers. You know that you've been watching YouTube a lot and you'll have certain ideas from YouTube, and then when you try to memorize answer, you will sound like a robot. So, and the examiner will say that you're unnatural, and you'll have lower band score for that. Do not overthink answers. For example, you are being asked about the presidency, for example, and then you don't really know political topic, and then you think about, like, you really think that you have to answer. It's not like that, right? So you don't have to. Don't freeze if you get unusual questions. You can also use some fillers. That never crosses my mind before, so give me a moment. I think in my perspective, I have to this and that. So try to extend a little bit. Or, well, that is really interesting, actually. So that's a moment actually for you to think about your answer. A question identification is another common mistake. Do not repeat the question, but paraphrase it. What are the main environmental problems in your country? Environmental problems, with the word problems, you're not allowed. To me, yeah, if I'm your examiner, if I'm your teacher, I will forbid you to use the word problem again. So you can use issue, you can use dilemma, you can use concern, you can use other words other than problems. So try to paraphrase it and indicate the grammar used in the question. How can people protect the environment is going to be present. Do you think it's going to be present? Do you think more should be done to protect it? It's going to be present, or it's going to be past? Yeah, so try to indicate the grammar used in the question by actually listening to the question itself. If the question is asking you, have you ever been to other countries other than your current country? And then it's going to be talking about the past, not talking about the future. Like, I have a plan to go to Rome by November. No, that's so indicate the grammar by listening carefully. Right. The next one is about developing ideas. You also need some certain topic actually to talk. For example, I have here the topic that you're being asked from the examiner is about animals, for example. Then you can say wild animals. You can talk about hunting, extinction, zoos, pets, animals in research, and so on. If it is about childhood, you can talk about play, games, toys, behavior, obeying parents, and study. So those certain vocabularies will be very useful for you. And there are different topics as well that we can cover usually. The next one about increasing your vocabulary, guys. When you note down new vocabulary, I don't suggest you to just put your vocabulary and describe the meaning of it. Sometimes I will ask the student to find the meaning, and also to find the synonyms of it, to find the collocation of it, and to find the antonym of it and the idiom of that word. It's simply, it's going to be starting from a very common word that you usually hear from the speaking test, and then you try to jot it down so that you have all of these vocabularies. So you know how to use the word problem naturally and with more of like a flexibility. All right. We are going to do practice. Do we have time to do practice, Kate?
Yeah, we still have time, around maybe 10 minutes.
No, actually. So we
10
go
minutes,
with the
yeah.
question and answer then.
Okay then. All right. So first question from Kak Muzayana. So do you have any tips to person who's still speaking in English with translating way in her brain from her mother language to English? Yeah,
Right.
that's it.
It's 2 tips for you. Practice and get feedback. That's all. Next, Kate.
All right. So someone raised her hand. Oh yeah, we have Kak Fadilah. So yeah, please you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi, Kak Doki and Kak Ate. Thank you for the chance that you give to me. How do you say, I want to ask you a question. How do you say something correctly in grammar? Sometimes I said it wrong. For example, for the subject she. Grammatically, we say she feels, not she feel. How to say it correctly without doubt? Sometimes I did it right in writing, but I did it wrong in speaking. Is it matter for the test? Thank you.
Yes, of course. It does matter for the test. Like what I just said, it does matter. Feeling does matter. Feelings don't matter. So it's gonna be for your grammatical range and accuracy score actually. If you talk about something plural as the subject, then you have to also give the plural verb. If it is singular, then singular verb. If you use have been, it's gonna be followed by verb ing or verb 3. If it is gonna be passive or active, it's all gonna be assessed by the examiner. So you have to be mindful in your speaking. Harus konsentrasi dan harus semuanya harus perfect. Gitu, nggak bisa ditoleransi. Gambar. Next question.
Okay, so Kak Intan Dwi Karlina raised her hand. So yeah, maybe you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay, hi Kak. Actually, my questions is regarding to the previous questions. It's about the grammar. So in my case, I tend to speak very fast because I actually don't want to have a gap, like a concrete gap when I speak. So I try to like speak it very fast, and my problem is for the case present tense or past tense or maybe the perfect tense, it's easy to detect if I made a wrong choice of grammar. But in case of like perfect continuous or something like that, like a word of questions that contains several grammatically it tends to get more difficult, and I like to refer it. Like maybe when I talk about the topics of topics A, then I try to like remember or to refer it to one topics that made me have to back to like momentarily to the past tense like that, and it can kind of confuse me to switch those structure. And my questions is, will it deduct my score if I can actually implement several grammars, but not the whole sentences is true, but I can steer the examiner to understand my flow of speaking? Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Kak Intan. So the answer is yes, it's gonna deduct your score. Losing control over grammar does happen a lot actually. From my students' perspective, so it's gonna be increasing your score and fluency in fluency and coherence, but then it's gonna be lowering your score in terms of the grammatical range and accuracy. So what we usually do, we focus on the student if their strength is already in fluency and coherence. So I will give feedback in grammatical parts, in grammar parts. So if the weak points is in grammar, so I will in fluency, so I'll try to increase the confidence of this person so that he or she can speak fluently. If the problem is related to pronunciation, for example, I will also give feedback related to pronunciation. So it's always good for you to practice and get feedback. Next question, Kate. Yes,
yeah.
it does affect your score.
Okay. So next question from Kafika. Sometimes the examiner talks too fast or in a difficult accent and we don't get the question, is it okay to make he or she repeat the questions, or it will affect on the score?
Right.
That's the
It's
question.
actually okay to ask the examiner to repeat the question once or twice, but if you are gonna do it like 3 times, 4 times, so that means you don't have a proper listening skill to to go for the IELTS test. So the problem is in your hearing. So don't ya, jangan sampai 3 kali 4 kali.
So it is okay to ask them to repeat the questions, but don't do it more than twice. Okay. Right. Say another question, everyone.
All answered.
Right. Yeah, I think all answered.
All right, so guys, I'm gonna show you just a little bit about our classroom. Actually, what we did in the classroom when we have the speaking class is not always practicing about speaking itself, but yes, we do practice a lot. So let's start with the speaking part 1. Could you please introduce yourself?
My complete name is Putri Hening. Easily call me Putri.
So do you work or study?
I work in government agency as a data analyst. So I'm focused on complete or collecting the data.
What are you saying?
It is not a question of that. For the moment, I'm not saying anything. I must continue the investigation. Soon, well, it is urgent that you answer the question.
I don't know what to say. I'm not unhappy. Perhaps I have won a car.
Right, so sometimes I ask students to do a play, actually, a role play between them. So they'll have to be a certain character, and what I ask them to do is usually to put that character in themselves so that they will give some they will express themselves also when they do speaking. So that's the one of the ways, actually, when you are expressing yourself using your hands, when you're expressing yourself using different intonation, and it's going to be increasing your confidence, actually. So it's going to be good practice for the students too. And I'm going to show you one more thing. Sometimes you also do play game, like in this game I will give them a word for one person, and I will ask this one person to explain that word to her friends or his friends, but then the other friends should guess what word is that.
Optimal. Just close. It's really close. Optimation. It's really close, guys. Just you need to change. Optimistic. More. Optimization. It's just one word, not describing anything, just simple word. Apa ya, Kak? How do I say this? It's just
Right, so the word is actually optimum. So it's not easy to do that. So sometimes I ask this is even like a simple word, reason. It's gonna be really hard to explain it if you don't have enough like vocabulary. So you need to actually squeeze your ideas in explaining something. So it's one of the ways one of the things that we do in our classroom. Actually, it's not always about how you call that, doing the mock test, but we do it a lot. In every single meeting, we have the mock test, and also we have the feedback. Right. Any other questions, Kate?
Yeah, we have a question from Kak Rivaldi Arnando. So mau tanya, yang ngetes itu kadang berpengaruh nggak ya? Soalnya kemarin saya ambil IELTS Speaking, dapatnya 6. So apakah berpengaruh si examinernya?
Yes, berpengaruh sebenarnya. Subjektivitas again. There is a subjectivity in IELTS test, but we can't really say. They have been standardized, actually, because they're all native English speaker, or they got band 9 before for all aspects. But yeah, there is always subjectivity, right? And it's not easy to understand their accents, especially when they speak like mumbling. Jadi susah gitu kalau pronunciation-nya nggak clear, kadang tuh kayak greget juga gitu, kayak kenapa sih nggak mangap nih, misalnya dan ya jadi itu challenge dari kita. Jadi ketika pertama kali ketemu examiner itu yang dilakukan adalah try to understand the accents, try to get used to his or her accents. That's gonna be better for your speaking practice. Any other question, Kat?
So his examiner is Chinese, not native speaker of English, actually.
Yes, so that means that person already got benign in all aspects.
Yep. Right. Okay, so any other question, everyone, before we end the session? So, but before we close the session, actually, I have a very nice offer for you. So we are currently opening a class for this. I think, yeah, it will be next week. So the class will be started next week. So we have IELTS intensive class. So this is the offer for you. So we are offering a very special discount for 25% for you only who attend this session. And actually there are IELTS all skills and writing or speaking. So we have both writing and speaking. And this offer only valid until 12 o'clock this evening. Jadi hanya sampai jam 12.
Yeah, until midnight only. Yeah. So you only have 3 hours. Not 3 hours, yeah. 4 hours.
Yeah, 4 hours until 12 o'clock this evening. And if you want to find out more about how to register and get your 25% discount, please contact the number here. So, and yeah, you can ask about this class. So yeah, any other question, everyone?
There is one more question, Kate.
Oh, right. So, yeah. Smile berpengaruh nggak ya ke score? Is there any effect from our smile and eyesight to the examiner for our IELTS speaking score?
Not really, actually. Yeah. But then it's not going to be affecting your score, but then it's going to be really good for your confidence, actually. Me, if I have to speak without my hands like up like that, I'm gonna be like a robot. It's gonna be hard to express myself, but I have to use my gestures actually to be able to speak at length and at a good fluency as well. So no, but you need it. Your back gesture, your eye contact, your hands, your movements, your intonation, it's gonna be really good. Whether you speak naturally or unnatural, it's gonna be seen from there, right? Any other questions, guys? Remember, guys, this is gonna be valid until midnight, so you better be hurry.
Any other question, everyone? Ya, karena yang di luar sudah tidak ada diskon, so it is only for you yang malam ini rela join our session untuk ikutan kelas ini.
Yeah.
So yeah, a special for you, only 4 hours ya.
All right, Kate, I think we need to have a photo session as well with these people. Okay, I love these people because they're very interactive. Oh, Zara is about to ask a question.
Okay, I would like to ask for you how to understand the examiner accent. For example, from Australia or India, their accent makes me difficult and confused, and whether we might the examiner to repeat the question.
Right, I feel you actually.
Yes,
Australian examiners are like that. So before we actually start your speaking test, the examiner will ask you certain questions, like vary from what you study and your name. And in that part, I will suggest you to really focus on his accent, really focus on the way he moves or she moves her mouth or his mouth. because it's gonna be important for the rest of your speaking tests. If you're not familiar enough with the accent, it's gonna be hard for you to understand the whole thing. So you need to be familiar with the accent. Jadi kesempatan pertama itu akan jadi kesempatan yang sebenarnya paling masuk ke sana. Right? And no tips. Jadi kalau misalnya nonton video, for example, on YouTube, misalnya kalian juga harus ngedengerin aksen-aksen yang berbeda. Nonton video YouTube yang dari Australia, nonton video YouTube yang dari UK, US, dan tempat-tempat lain. Singapore kalau ada.
Yeah,
Yes.
Singaporean English. Right. So, last question, I guess. Is there any IELTS course focusing on speaking?
Yes, actually. We just showed you. We have 25% discount.
Yeah.
Can we see again the discount? This discount part, Kate?
Yeah.
And guys, you can screenshot this one, so you don't lose the chance. It's only available for 4 hours.
Yeah. So wait a second. I'm gonna share my screen. So here only writing actually, but we do have the speaking, yes,
too, with the same price as writing. Speaking and writing gonna be having the same price.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So yeah, this is for. So this is for writing or speaking actually. So yeah, the same price and the same schedule. It will start on next week.